Hey, what's up friends? Welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm going to be showing you how to make my famous sausage chili. This is a chili that my brother always requests for the Super Bowl. And it does take a little bit of time to prep and cook this, but I guarantee you it's completely worth the effort. So the first thing we're going to need are a variety of peppers, starting with the Poblano. This is going to give you kind of like that chili flavor and a little bit of heat. You also need some bell peppers. This provides some color and sweetness. And then we're going to need some onions and garlic, because everything that tastes great starts with onion and garlic. We're going to drizzle a little bit of oil over everything. A neutral oil is the best option for this, something like canola or vegetable oil. We're going to char our peppers, onions, and garlic using a broiler. But if you have a gas stove, you can actually char them directly over the open flame. And while that's getting nice and charred, we're going to work on our meats, starting with beef chuck. And you could probably substitute it with a different cut of meat, maybe brisket, but beef chuck is readily available, it's cheap, and when you cook it low and slow, it gets really soft and tender. And all we're really doing here is trimming off some of the fat and then cutting into bite-sized chunks. And once you have our meat all cut up into nice bite-sized chunks, we're going to add a little bit of salt. Not too much, because we're going to add more seasoning later. And here's a quick pro tip, something I learned from all of my years of watching food TV and YouTube cooking channels, but you want to season in layers, so you're seasoning as you go instead of at the end or in the beginning. And this step here is optional, but the leftover fat pieces, I'm going to render them out a bit. I'm going to use that as basically our cooking oil. And don't forget to check on your peppers. You want to make sure they're not on fire. That's a bad thing. And you also want to make sure you're charring them nice and evenly all over. You want to get the skin nice and blistered, and that's where all the flavor is. And now back to our meat. Once your fat is nice and rendered out, we're going to go ahead and add our cut up chuck. Side note, I call my brother Chuck, but every time I say Chuck, it reminds me of my brother. By the way, shout out to my brother Chuck. What's up, Chuck? Oh, by the way, the pan should be really hot when you put your meat in, because we want the meat browned on all sides. We don't want to steam it, and you don't want to cook this too much. We just want that Maillard reaction, you know, the caramelized color. Again, that's where all the flavor is. And once we get enough color on the meat, we're going to go ahead and put it into a bigger pot. Next up, we're going to do our ground pork. By the way, all of the ingredients will be listed down below. And like I said earlier, we're gonna season this pork a little bit. Remember, season in layers. And as I'm cooking out my pork, you wanna make sure there aren't huge chunks of ground pork in your chili. To me, the secret to good chili is not only the flavor, but the texture. And huge chunks of ground pork or ground beef just isn't very appealing to me. I actually normally use whole sausages and then break open the casings, but I found this ground pork on sale, and that's what I'm using here today. This is basically how you want your pork to look. You don't see too many large pieces, and if I see any big pieces, I'm just gonna break it up. And once your pork is finished cooking, we can go ahead and put it into the pot with our beef. And now we're back to our peppers, which are nice and charred now. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these into a bowl and then cover it with saran wrap and let it steam. And what we're doing here is loosening the skin up a little bit so it's easier to peel, because you want the flavor from the charring, but you don't really want the skin. It's actually really hard for your stomach to digest pepper skin, and it looks kind of unsightly in your chili as well. And usually at this point I would cook some smoked sausage, but I could not find any smoked sausage at my local grocery store. It's been this way for a couple weeks. I'm sure you guys are experiencing the same thing with food shortages, but just use whatever you have available. You definitely need ground beef. This is an 80-20. You could use something a little leaner like 85-15, but I like 80-20. Has more flavor, it's cheaper. And you can use the leftovers to make burgers. And next up, we're gonna go ahead and chop up the charred onions and mince up the garlic, and I'm actually gonna add this to my ground beef. And then I'm gonna cook this mixture until pretty much all of the liquid has evaporated. Oh, and I think I forgot to mention this, but you do want to season it, again, just a little bit of salt, not too much, because we're seasoning in layers. And then we're gonna add our ground beef mixture to the pot. And here's another pro tip. You see all that stuff at the bottom of the pan? It's called fond. There's tons of flavor in there, and we want that fond. So we're gonna deglaze the pan so we can extract all of that flavor. We're gonna use a spatula to scrape off all of the fond, and then it goes right into the pot. Not only is there tons of flavor here, but we're also cleaning the pan in the process. Okay, let's get back to the peppers, which should be cool enough to handle now. You're gonna go ahead and peel the skin off, and this can kind of be somewhat challenging. Using a spoon or a knife does help a little bit. All of that flavor from the charred peppers is really going to transform your chili. If you use raw peppers or raw chili, it's fine, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't have that smokiness that I expect from a good chili. Oh, and also we're gonna be de-seeding all of the chilies as well. You don't want chili pepper seeds floating around in your chili. It doesn't look good, and again, it's inedible. Also, resist the urge to run this underwater to get rid of the seeds and the skin, because you're gonna be washing away all that flavor. And once we finish the painstaking process of de-seeding and de-skinning your chilies, we can go ahead and chop it up and add it to the pot. And as you can see, I didn't do a really great job of getting rid of all of the seed, and I definitely left some skin on. Just do the best you can. Also, you can put jalapenos in here. I didn't want to make my chili too spicy, so the heat from the poblanos is fine. We're also going to be adding some fresh jalapenos as a topping later on. So just a side note. And this step is optional. We're gonna add some chipotle chilies. I don't normally do this, but I just wanted to try it out. Add a little bit of smokiness, a little tanginess, and a little bit of heat. Next up, we're gonna add our beans. I'm using two different kinds, dark red kidney beans and black beans. You can use whatever beans you have on hand, but normally I use darker beans. Between 4 and 6 cans should be plenty for the amount we're making here. Obviously, add more beans if you want, and if you don't want a lot of beans, add less. Next up, beef jerky. Now here's a little story about where I learned about this. I got the recipe from a fellow I used to work with. His name's Billy Ziegler, and he made the best chili, and he used to tell people that he would put his used chewing tobacco in the chili, and there was things floating around in his chili that I could not figure out what they were. And he pulled me aside one time and he told me it's not chewing tobacco, it's actually beef jerky. And to this day, I still remember that story. It's a funny story, and it's also kind of like an ingredient that you would never really think to use in chili, but it's obvious. It adds smokiness and a little bit of heat if you're using something spicy. But here I'm just using regular Jack Link's original beef jerky, and it actually cooks down and you don't even notice it's in there, but it imparts a tiny bit of smokiness in there as well. Next up, we're gonna add our chili powder. If you want to be authentic, you're gonna make your own from whole chilies. But I guess if you really want to be authentic, you'd also be cooking this out on a prairie and using rancid rabbit meat. But here, in the real world, we're gonna just use some McCormick chili powder. No measurements. I'm just eyeballing it and adding a little bit more if I feel like I need it. A little bit of sugar because I feel like the sweetness helps to balance out all of the other flavors. Some vinegar to add a little bit of brightness to your chili. I'm using white vinegar. You can use cider vinegar if you have it. Some beer. You want to use a dark beer like a lager. Here I'm using a stout, which is actually brewed by a local company called Rotunda Brewing, and here they made a Fresh Donuts beer. Fresh Donuts is a donut shop that's owned by a friend of mine, Pisat, and they did a collaboration with Fresh Donuts. They made this beer, which honestly it doesn't really taste that great. People love it. I'm not a huge fan, but we had this beer sitting in the fridge and I'm like, you know what, this would be perfect in my chili. And finally, we're gonna add my secret ingredient, fish sauce, the Three Crabs brand. And we're only gonna just add a tiny splash of it. We don't want anybody to detect that there's any fish sauce in here. And this is what it currently looks like. The chili is gonna be kind of loose, but as you cook this, it will thicken up a bit. But I am gonna add a little bit of water because I know it's gonna be sitting on the stove for quite some time and it's gonna evaporate. As you can see, it's already starting to happen, and this has only been cooking for maybe about an hour. But you want this to cook for at least 4 hours. And of course, I'm at my brother's house for Super Bowl Sunday, so we're gonna do a little drinking while we wait. And that's pretty much it for the chili. We're gonna be hanging out here, so if you're into that, if you're into watching me hanging out with my friends and family, stick around. Otherwise, you can jump off and go out and make your own famous chili or a variation of this recipe, because that's what cooking is all about, is taking a recipe that's already out there and making your own. That's Vietnamese, right? What would you call this dessert? What,
That's not dessert.
Whatever. I mean, a dumpling or
Yeah, it's a dumpling.
a dumpling, pancake, like a mini pancake, like a Vietnamese silver dollar pancake. Dior. Maybe Dior wants some of the shredded
You wanted a whole handful.
squids.
Squid.
That's good, right?
Really?
Yeah.
She's yeah.
Cuttlefish. Yeah, that's squid.
Cuttlefish.
That's squid.
Oh. That's really good.
Oh wait, my mom brought these pickles.
Oh yeah, that one is good.
Right here. Uh-oh. What's that?
You make that?
No, I bought.
No, it's from
This if Korean make it, it's really good. But this is Cambodian made.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's crunchy. Ooh, lịch tới Happy.
This is a nice setup. That's the table that no one's ever gonna use.
Wow! I like your apartment, Dior.
Yeah.
It's a nice apartment. She never has to leave. You never have to leave, Dior.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, that's right, I'm staying here. Is this where you guys are gonna put all the liquor back here? There's a bottle of Jack back here. This is gonna be where my new cooking show's at.
No. It's all white cabinet. No.
No, you got a good vent?
You would have grease stains on your
Yeah.
ceiling.
Yeah. And my side. No cooking down here.
This is just for show.
Yeah.
This is like the nicest hotel I've ever been in. Coco, what's your analysis?
I think it's a 4.5 point spread in favor of the Rams. So they should be able, it's hometown territory, home turf territory,
Yeah.
they'll probably win.
I'll probably watch about 10 minutes of this in total.
Get to the halftime.
Yeah. And I'm gonna go upstairs and sit there and munch on foods all evening. Oh man. Oh.
Smoking process done. We're gonna
Oh,
sear
you smoked it?
Yeah. We're gonna sear it here and
Ooh. Oh man.
Wagyu beef tallow.
Ooh.
Black. Sheesh. Spicing that sucker's gonna be.
And then he's got a steak sous vide over here.
Yeah.
The heck? And then my famous sausage chili. Oh, look at that. Oh man. No tomato. Just beans and meat and peppers. Chili peppers.
Where's your shoulder? You love to dance. Okay. I'm not laughing at you. Yeah.
Oh. Uh-oh.
That's my favorite piece right there.
Is it too rare?
No, that's perfect. Hey, boo yow.
Yeah, booyah! Come on, I gotta go.
She's gotta go to work. Gotta go make the money.
To go? Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy! No! Oh! Chip accident. Oh, sorry eating, guys.
The first reaction every time she sees me is turn around, run, and cry.
Mm.
But has to warm up.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
It's very, very good.
You like it?
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Do I see something very exciting in here?
Yeah.
There better not be mushrooms in there.
No. What do you
There's
think?
not?
There's no mushrooms in there. I don't know what you see. What do you see?
I thought it was a mushroom.
No, I don't know.
Is it not a mushroom?
No, that's an onion. That's a piece of an onion.
Oh, I got excited.
I was like, alright, so now I make something different. I had to go with that side. I couldn't make up another.
Was it good then?
I did do pretty good. Hey, Granny! What do you guys bring? Meatballs?
I made stuffed pepper soup. Fresh.
What soup? Taco soup again?
Fresh. Oh wait, where's two?
Wait, what'd you make?
She'll be back.
Happy Super Bowl day! Happy Super Bowl day, Coco. Japanese cognac.
It just finished in Japanese oak barrels. Tastes like a Japanese.
Okay, this is a Super Bowl commercial. What the hell? What are you making, Sherry?
Chocolate chip cookie brownie.
Oh my goodness, what? What do you got, Passat?
Savi's famous chili.
No, I said who we got.
Oh.
Who's gonna win the game? Yeah, Mike's famous chili is gonna win the game for sure. What do you got?
I don't know. It looks pretty close.
And Nick? What do you got?
I got
What do you
the
got?
ram.
Rams?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Over or under?
Over.
Over. There, straight up, 20. Straight up.
I got the team 10. Bengals getting 4 too.
All right, give me the points. I'll give you the points here. Shake my hand.
$20.
20 bucks.
Hey.
Yeah. Bob your head, Sherry. Come on, Sat. Get into it.
Donna looks like Megan Fox.
Yo, how did they get that guy up there? You see that? Whoa. Sponsored by Pepsi. They're done. He's pointing at his finger. Look at his ring. No. She won by points. She bet the points with me. Yeah, I should have given her the points. But at least LA won. LA won. Woohoo!